The anime opens with Okabe standing in the middle of the road and talking to himself. Soon he is joined by Mayuri and they attend a press conference about the invention of a time machine. Okabe is deep in thought when something that feels like an earthquake happens. He goes to meet Mayuri, who calls him, and ends up giving her a rare metal UPA toy, the rarest available item from the vending machine. Mayuri writes her name on it. The conference soon begins and Dr. Nakabachi begins to speak. Soon Okabe realizes that the doctor stole bulk of his work from the earlier works of a certain John Titor. He also learns that Mayuri has misplaced her metal UPA toy. This Mayuri girl talks like a child and it seems like she is quite restless. As Okabe confronts Dr. Nakabachi about what he found out, a popular scientist named Mikis drags him out. She asks him what he wanted to tell her earlier. He states that they have not met before and so he walks away. Okabe and Mayuri discuss and soon they hear a scream. He tells her to leave the building for her safety and he begins to search around. He finds Mikis in a pool of her own blood. Okabe sends a message on his phone about Mikis' death and suddenly he finds himself in front of the conference building again. It feels like time has changed as no one knows what previously happened, with a satellite now crashed on top of the building. Later on, we see Okabe, Mayuri and Ataru in the lab. Okabe is the self-described mad scientist while the others are lab members. In this world, it is revealed that the conference didn't hold due to the satellite crashing on the building. However, Okabe can remember attending the conference and Mikis dying, as expected from a time travel series. What the hell is happening here? They perform experiments, turning bananas to jellies with what is supposed to be a microwave that can time travel. Okabe and the hacker Ataru go out to attend a seminar and Okabe accidentally finds out that the message he sent about Mikis' death is sent 5 days into the past. Soon he sees Mikis standing outside. She isn't dead in this world. Before Mikis leaves, Okabe tells her that his real name is Hoen Kuma. Mikis and Okabe have an argument on time travel and she easily defeats him. We are soon introduced to a boy named Luca who looks like a girl, and Okabe tells the boy to perform an exorcism on him as he feels like there is something wrong with him due to what has happened so far. At home, Okabe meets Mr. Braun, who reveals that Suzuha now works for him. Suzuha takes an interest in Okabe. He searches the internet and finds a certain John Titor that claims to be saving the future from the evil organization SERN. The man also claims that multiple world lines are possible. Okabe is not able to get enough information on John Titor though. The next day, he has a weird experience on the street with a girl taking his pictures. He meets up with Mayuri, Ferris and Ataru and they talk about the strange girl, who said that she was searching for the IBM 5100, an old model computer that hasn't been seen for a while. Okabe returns to the lab with his crew, and they succeed in using their teleporting microwave to return a banana back to its bunch. However, the banana turns to jelly. Mikis ends up coming to their lab surprisingly. An argument ensues, but after some time, they allow Mikis examine the microwave on the condition that she joins their lab. They experiment with the microwave again, as Ataru sends a message to Okabe's phone and it is sent 1 day into the past. Okabe tells Ataru to hack into SERN, and soon they find out that the organization has tried out time travel and has created a mini black hole. However, their experiment with time travel resulted in loss of lives. SERN has finally made an intro as a really evil scientific organization and I'm hyped for it. Digging deeper into SERN, they get stuck as they cannot decipher the programming codes on the website. Okabe remembers his chat with John Titor and realizes that they will be able to crack it with the elusive IBM 5100 computer. Okabe goes out to do laundry, and he meets Mikis. She agrees to come back to the lab. However, she still insists that there is no time travel machine. Mikis believes in her principles so much as she is even willing to go against what her eyes saw, because she did see the microwave perform time traveling. Okabe plays a game with Ferris and she tells him that she has seen such a computer in the Akihabara shrine. Okabe takes Mikis along with him to the shrine, in hopes to pick up the computer from Luca. Okabe and Mikis return to the lab with the IBM 5100 computer, and they meet Suzuha closing Mr. Braun's electronic shop, as she is about to go home. She surprises Okabe when she guesses correctly that the box contains a computer, and she also glares at Mikis with hateful intent. There is clearly something strange about Suzuha. Is she from the future? Does she have history with Mikis? Is she with the evil organization, SERN? They finally use the computer to discern CERN's report, and they are about to find out more things about the scientific organization. It is revealed that CERN's time travel experiments were successful. However, all the humans turned to green jellies and died. Okabe, as the mad scientist, declares that he will perfect his own time machine before the evil organization does theirs. I feel like Okabe is really mad if he feels he will be able to perfect time travel before the world's leading science company. The girl who was taking pictures of Okabe on her phone is known as Mocha, and she is now among the multitude of people that have turned the conference building where the satellite crashed into a tourist center. Mocha receives a message on her phone from FB, and she speedily replies. Back in the lab, Okabe and his team members decide that the microwave is not exactly a time travel machine, but rather it is more specifically a way to send messages to the past, and they name these messages mails. This is clearly a lazy attempt at email. After more experiments, McKees realizes some limitations on the microwave. She states that 120 seconds on the microwave equals 5 days of backward time travel. There is also a limitation on the number of characters that can be sent as text in the D-mails. Mocha is obsessed with the IBM 5100 computer, and so she texts Okabe that she is coming to the lab. Okabe allows her in. She also tries to borrow the computer, but he refuses before telling her things about the computer and where he got it from. For a self-described mad scientist, this guy is not smart. If you're in a war against an evil organization, I expect that you won't just let anyone into your headquarters, and you'll be cautious enough not to divulge secret information. After revealing all their secrets to her, he declares Mocha a lab member. They perform more experiments that in a way kind of leads to the destruction of Mayuri's microwave. The new version of the microwave can now send D-mails to any phone. With the whole team living their lives, doing different things, while also trying to perfect the machine, Okabe decides to try a new experiment. He sends a message to the past, containing coupon codes to win a prize in a lottery, even though McKees kicks against it, as it could create a time paradox. Immediately he sends the message, the world changes, and in this new world, none of his lab members can remember doing the experiment except him. This anime is so great for the way it is able to bring up twists in every episode. Anyways, Luca comes to the lab later and he says that Okabe texted him the lottery numbers a week ago. He also apologizes for making a mistake in getting one of the numbers wrong. Okabe is confused as to why he is the only one still with his old memories before the experiment, and he contacts John Titor. John Titor is also confused about Okabe retaining his memories. However, he says that with Okabe's method of changing the past with D-mails, he might be able to shift the world divergence beyond 1% and end up saving the future from CERN's dystopia. The lab members try more and more experiments with their microwave travel machine. In one of such experiments, a D-mail is sent that changes Mocha from being a member of the lab. As she never came to the lab, Luca, a boy that looks like a girl, also convinces him to send a message to his mother from before Luca was born. The aim of this D-mail is to tell Luca's mom to change her feeding habit, and with the new feeding habit, Luca will be born as a girl. The pervert Itaru ends up telling Ferris about the microwave, and now she wants to send her own message to the past. Okabe is worried at how their meddling with the past is affecting the timeline. One of such changes to the timeline is that the IBM 5100 computer has disappeared from the lab, and it is now like they never found it. The same computer that they went through a lot to get. The group has a discussion, and McKees explains to them why the microwave will not be able to successfully send a human back in time. Later, Okabe meets Ferris about the IBM 5100 computer, and she says she will tell them where it is, if she is allowed to send a message to the past. Itaru and Mayuri plead for her, and Okabe agrees, on the condition that she becomes a lab member. This D-mail ends up changing the entire city, as Akihabara is no longer the city of otaku or cute culture, as all such stores no longer exist. The lab members plan a trip to the beach, and when they say that it will be a girls-only trip, Okabe replies that Luca, being a guy, he won't be able to attend. This makes Luca cry, and in this scene, we realize that the gender experiment actually worked. Okabe decides to throw a party for Suzuha, the girl working part-time in Mr. Braun's store. He has a discussion with McKees, and they clear up his previous mistake about Luca's gender. Suzuha tells Okabe that she came to the city to find her father, and after Okabe makes her a lab member, he says that he will join the search for her father. Things seem to be heating up, as Okabe receives a threat message on his phone. If I'm to guess, I'll say the message came from the evil scientific organization. Okabe sends a D-mail that changes the world line. Suzuha tells him that she had fun at the party, and she also reveals that her dad goes by the name Barrel Titer. The name Titer is going to be key in whatever happens going forward in this anime. Okabe tries to distract his landlord, Mr. Braun, while he performs an experiment, but Suzuha taking of her clothes to distract the man fails, and it leads to the destruction of Mr. Braun's TV. Okabe realizes that it served like a power source and that the D-mails can only be sent when the TV is on. Scientifically, there's a whole lot of crazy things in this show that should not be. Miki's, being the genius that she is, explains to Okabe that it might be possible to send frontal lobe memories into the past, allowing a person's consciousness to time travel instead of using a text or a human being. On his way to buy materials, Suzuha tells Okabe that Miki's works for SERN. From the way she was glaring at Miki's previously, I knew there was an issue. Anyways, how does Suzuha know this? Okabe confronts Miki's, and she denies it. She tells Okabe about her life, and how her dad now despises her since she surpassed him in scientific knowledge. Still outside, Okabe receives another threatening text on his phone that makes him run back to the lab to check on Mayuri. With the knowledge that everyone is safe, he calls a meeting, and in the meeting, Itaru tells them that the lab has been connected to CERN's network unknowingly. Okabe feels that SERN has hacked them, and so he thinks the evil organization is responsible for the threat messages he has been receiving. In a weird dream, we see Okabe and Mayuri in what appears to be a desolate land, 70 million years into the past. She tells him that they are going to die. The lab members think that the time machine has now been perfected, however, they will need a human test subject to confirm it. Okabe decides that they will go public with the machine rather than risk human life. Our mad scientist finally makes a good decision. Okabe and Mayuri are having a discussion. Soon Itaru calls them into the lab and everyone sees on TV that train stations have shut down due to a bomb threat. Suzuha learns that they hacked into SERN, so she leaves. Okabe notices that the hourglass has stopped. Mayuri's pocket watch has also stopped working, and soon some armed men led by Miko attack the lab. The assailants claim that SERN is confiscating the microwave. While taking Okabe, Miki's, and Itaru into their custody, Mayuri is shot in the head. Suzuha runs into the lab and shows excellent fighting skills as he incapacitates all the armed men, leading her to a standoff with Mocha. I'll never have thought Suzuha could fight so well. The lab members work together, and what follows is Okabe time leaping into the past, and surprisingly, it works as he doesn't turn to a jelly. The remaining part of the episode is just Okabe trying to utilize the 3 hours period he has to save Mayuri and stop her from dying at the hands of Mocha, but all of his attempts fail. Okabe keeps time leaping and failing, and at some point, it feels like a loop. Okabe goes to the past again, and this time he tries to escape with Mayuri through a cab. However, they are stuck in traffic for 3 hours, and a man with a gun murders Mayuri. This is beginning to feel like something that has been fated to happen. It's like how we restart a video game but keep losing. In his next attempt to save Mayuri, he meets up with Mocha and forces her to reveal that she is a rounder, a group of people tasked with retrieving IBM 5100 computers. He also learns that she receives her orders from FB. In another attempt, he gets to the lab and finds out that Mayuri has already been killed. I'm just imagining how frustrated he will be right now. Probably a lot of us would have given up if we were in his shoes. He time leaps again, and this time he seeks for Miki's help, letting her know that he is from the future. Suzuha shows them a divergence meter and explains world lines to them, saying that if they can cross the 1% divergence barrier, they could move to a different world line where Mayuri doesn't have to die. Suzuha explains to them that she is from the future, 2036. She says that she is member of the anti-SERN resistance and has come to the past, because she knows they cannot defeat SERN in the future timeline as SERN has total control over the world. Suzuha also reveals to them that Okabe is a popular resistance fighter in the future even though he ends up dying, while Miki's was the one that helped SERN take over the world via time travel. Now we've gotten a much-needed explanation of why Suzuha is always glaring at Miki's. Suzuha reveals that she wants to go 1975 and stop SERN from getting their hands on a time machine. Her time machine gets back, so Okabe takes all the lab members to the location, and Okabe makes Itaru fix the machine in 48 hours with promise of a date with Ferris. Mayuri and Okabe decide to help Suzuha look for clues on her father's identity while Itaru fixes the machine. The clues on Suzuha's father leads them to a vendor who says that he looked like a barrel. Okabe decides to go back in time to witness a meeting between the vendor and the barrel-like man. Okabe also learns that Suzuha's time machine can only go to the past, so when she goes to 1975, she won't be able to return. Later on, Mayuri smartly deduces that Itaru is actually Suzuha's father, and it is quite an emotional scene that brings Suzuha to tears. With Suzuha now gone, after some time, Mr. Braun delivers a letter to them from Suzuha, a letter written in the year 2000. He says that Suzuha is dead, she committed suicide, and from the letter, they find out that she failed the mission. Damn, it's just one tragedy after another for our favorite lab team. Suzuha regrets some of her actions, and so she wants him to send a D-mail to the past, ensuring that he doesn't stop her from going to 1975 the night she actually wanted to. Okabe grants her wish, and in this new world, he learns from Mr. Braun that Suzuha died from an illness. Mr. Braun also shows Okabe the divergence meter, and she sees that it has increased a bit, but still not up to 1%. In the next scene, Okabe realizes that Mayuri's time of death has arrived, so he rushes to the lab and sees her still alive. He begins to shed tears of joy. It seems like he has become victorious. I still think it's too early to be happy though, because they need 1% divergence to save Mayuri, and they didn't get that, so maybe something might still happen. Okabe is in the lab with Itaru, Mikis and Mayuri. He begins to wonder about the situation, as Mayuri is still alive. Mayuri complains that her pocket watch has stopped watching. We know what this means, and it is not a good thing. As soon as she says it, the Rounders attack the lab and Mayuri is killed. Okabe time leaps again to save Mayuri as he has been doing. This time around, Mikis tells him that they need to hack into SERN and delete all the information that the organization has on them. To do that, they'll need the IBM 5100 computer, which is currently nowhere to be found. Mikis makes a theory that undoing the D-mails sent so far will take them to a world where they have the computer, and so Okabe decides to risk it. Okabe meets Ferris, but she refuses to tell him the content of the D-mail she sent. After some time, she agrees and tells him that she prevented her father's death. After undoing Ferris' D-mail, Okabe arrives in a new world. However, the computer is still nowhere to be found. Okabe tries to help Luca get back her memories by telling her that she was a male, and Luca begins to cry. This guy is really a mad scientist. He has zero emotional intelligence. He tells her about his ploy to save Mayuri and pleads with her to give up being female and revert to her previous male gender. Okabe and Mikis talk about undoing Luca's D-mail by themselves, but he realizes that they do not have her mother's contact number. Luca agrees to undo the D-mail, on the condition that Okabe goes on a date with her. Since Luca was introduced, it is quite clear that she has feelings for Okabe. Okabe seeks for advice on how to have a date. He wears a suit, and he and Luca go on their date. After the date, Luca gives him the number and he is able to undo the D-mail. The divergence meter increases, but it is still below 1%. Okabe begins to make plans to undo the final D-mail. In this new timeline, Okabe explains everything to Mikis, telling her how every D-mail that has been undone has shifted Mayuri's death back by 1 day. The next D-mail is Mocha's own, but it has to be sent from her phone. I feel like this will be quite difficult for him to do, because Mocha is working with the Rounders. Okabe makes a time leap, and here he has to save Mocha. He meets her in a sad state, and soon they begin to fight over her phone. He successfully takes the phone from her and sends the D-mail. However, the timeline doesn't change. He finally realizes that her D-mail was not about getting a new phone. Mocha refuses to tell him the content of the D-mail. As she doesn't want to sell out FB, she claims FB saved her life when she wanted to commit suicide. He finds out that the content of the message was to steal the computer from the shrine, so he tries to send it again, but it doesn't work. It is concluded that Mocha didn't believe the D-mail. She will only obey a message from FB. After a conversation, she decides to believe Okabe and tell him where she hid the computer. Okabe sees he will try to save her, even though he knows it is her fate to commit suicide. Okabe sits outside the locker room where the IBM 5100 is supposed to be. He waits for FB to come, as he wants to know FB's identity. Mikis and Mayuri see Mr. Braun, and he states that he is going to increase Okabe's rent. Later that night, Mocha joins Okabe in waiting, and he learns that the code name FB gave her is M4. Soon, they see a man come to take the computer. He takes it to some other men who take it to some other men. At the end, Okabe sees someone hand the computer to Mr. Braun, finalizing that Mr. Braun is FB. Okabe, McKees and Mocha decide to confront Mr. Braun and they go to his house. Mr. Braun admits that he is FB, Ferdinand Braun, and he leads them to a construction site. The four of them have a short discussion. He brings out a pistol and kills Mocha. He also shots himself in the head. Amidst these tragic circumstances, Okabe uses Mr. Braun's phone to undo Mocha's D-mail, and it finally works. This anime has gotten quite dark, and this is the point where you felt anyone can die. In this new timeline, Okabe gets the elusive computer from Luca. He takes it to the lab for Itaru to begin hacking and erasing their data from SRN. Before Itaru starts, McKees asks Okabe what the first D-mail was, and he suddenly realizes that the first D-mail was to prevent McKees' death. And so if the hacking is complete, Mayuri will be saved, SERN will be defeated, but McKees will end up dying. Okabe follows Mayuri to a convention. He feels that she will die that day. On the phone, he tells McKees that he will save Mayuri in this timeline, and so he won't be going to another world line. She asks for his reasons, but he refuses to say. I guess there is no polite way to tell someone that they will die. Coming back from the convention, a car hits Mayuri and she dies, much to Okabe's frustration. Okabe uses the time machine again and goes to the past. After some resistance, he explains the whole deal with the D-mails to McKees. In the next scene, we see Mayuri at her grandmother's grave, and it is revealed that she has experiencing her deaths in the other timelines via dreams. Okabe and McKees are in the building where Suzuha's time machine got spoiled. While drying off their wet clothes, she casually asks him if she dies in this building. They have a discussion, and she tells him to go back the other world line, even if it means her dying. Okabe refuses to go that world line, however McKees sucks in convincing him. Okabe, now broken-hearted, confesses his love to her and McKees replies with a kiss. The romantic tension between these two characters have been there since the beginning, in between their incessant quarrels and bickering. Okabe sees McKees off to the train station as she is about to go to America. He gets back to the lab and presses the button to undo the D-mail and take him to the other world line. McKees runs into the lab to stop him. However, she is too slow as the machine takes effect. The episode ends with Suzuha telling Okabe over the phone to meet her at the rooftop. Along with Itaru and Mayuri, he goes to the rooftop and they meet Suzuha and her time machine. She tells them about going to the past to prevent World War III, and Okabe finally agrees with the plan when he hears that it can save McKees. To prove that this world line is different from the others, Suzuha's time machine here can also go forward in time, not only backwards. They time leap into the past, and Okabe and Suzuha arrive at the building in time for the conference. Okabe has an interaction with McKees, and while hiding in the room, he witnesses her interaction with her dad, Dr. Nakabachi, and realizes that it is her father that killed her. In trying to prevent that scenario, Okabe fights off her father, but mistakenly ends up stabbing her. McKees dies. Back to their world, Okabe is disappointed. They see on the television that Dr. Nakabachi has taken McKees' paper on time travel to Russia. This in turn led to the time travel race, leading to what eventually turned out to be World War III. Mayuri and Suzuha encourage Okabe not to give up. Suzuha tells him to play a video on his phone, and it turns out to be advice from his future self. He reluctantly accepts the mission from his future self and time leaps one last time to save McKees and the world. Before the time travel, Suzuha revealed to them that the time machine had enough energy for one more jump to and fro. She also says that if the mission is successful, she will automatically go back to her own timeline. Okabe took a lightsaber on the journey. He plans to use the liquid as a replacement for McKees' blood. Now in the past, he is in the room where McKees was killed. He finds out that the liquid in the lightsaber has dried up. Nakabachi arrives and begins to beat McKees. Then Okabe shows himself and begins to mock Nakabachi, causing the older man to stab him in the stomach. Okabe takes out the knife and threatens the older man with it, causing Nakabachi to run away in fear. The essence of Okabe being stabbed is that he will use his blood as a replacement for McKees' blood to create the murder scene perfectly, the way it originally was. Okabe knocks out McKees with a taser. Then he makes sure he bleeds out on the floor, then places her body on the blood. Suzuha finds him in a critical condition, and together they exit the building and use the time machine. Suzuha fades away as the mission has been completed. Later on, we see Dr. Nakabachi complaining about losing his thesis. This means that SERN will no longer be able to take over the world. It is victory at last for our mad scientist and his team. The next scenes show us all the lab members, and we can see that they are doing well. The anime ends with Okabe and Miki's reuniting, as he is able to reawaken some of her memories.